What is happening, everybody? Ryan here, SP's Gym. Now, I want to talk to you guys about something. Adjust this camera here. I want to talk to you guys about the Patreon site I've set up. Now you're going to see the link, clickable link right here. Have a look at that, you guys. It's going to give an opportunity to monetize some of the content I've been putting out. If you saw the video last week where it was an interview with Mr. Michael Todd, there is a piece of that interview that is strictly for patrons of the Patreon site. So that's the kind of additional bonus content you're going to get by signing up over there. And you see there's 3 different tiers. Check it out, everybody. It's going to be some really fantastic stuff. I have secured an interview with someone who is a pretty big deal in other areas of entertainment, but has deep roots in arm wrestling. And that's all I'm going to tell you right now. But I should hear from him within the next few days on a time for that interview. And the bulk of it, of course, will stay on our Thursday morning segments. But going forward from there, there might be a little snippet of that interview that is strictly for the Patreon members. So check out that site and help keep the dream alive. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the sport of arm wrestling this week. We have the top 8 coming up. I cannot pick apart the top 8. They are all killers, but I can hang with I can hang with most of those guys. So my phone's not ringing off the hook, but Igor, I'm here if you need me, man, because I am certain that I can give some of those guys fits. I busted Levon in Turkey, and I want that match back. So whatever it takes, guys. And speaking of top 8, let's talk about bottom 8. This is a crazy concept that people are starting to actually listen to, and it's starting to get a little bit of traction. Now, I don't know how they picked the 8 shittiest arm wrestlers in the world, but I'm not sure that even they would fall into that category. We have Juji Mufu, who is seriously a gifted athlete, going against the French arm wrestling king, who, as far as I know, has never been on an arm wrestling table in his life. He's got some crazy training videos where he's lifting beavers and doing all kinds of stuff, but Gabi says his arm is going to get broke, the French arm wrestling kings. I don't think I can disagree with that, and I figure the way I see it is you put the French arm wrestling king against the guy that is most likely to break his arm, because Juji is not fast in the sport of arm wrestling yet. They will get into a match, and I think Juji will pull through him, and it could be a very, very bad day for the French arm wrestling king. But French arm wrestling king, hit me up, man. I will help you train a little bit to get ready for this if you're interested. Then we got Artem versus Laba. We got a couple of seasoned arm wrestlers that it'll be entertaining to hear the trash talk, but the match will not be interesting. I think that probably Laba wins this one just on size. I don't know anything about these guys. Then you got Burgoyne versus Soublier. Interesting match. I think Evan's probably going to take it. We've seen the trash talk for months when they were going to pull before. I'm not sure if they ever did. Evan's song and dance is kind of the same. We'll see. It'll be fun. Gabi versus Ryan Bowen. I think Ryan's the guy that's genuinely insulted to be in this top 8, but I think he's going to take the match and maybe the whole thing. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Evan Burgoyne's going to win the whole thing. He's got a grinding style that's hard to pull against, and I think he's got this. WAF referees. World Arm Wrestling Federation referees. Apparently the World Arm Wrestling Federation has put out a statement banning their referees from arm wrestling and other events. I don't know what the point of that is. It's anti-competitive. I don't know. But what I do know is that once all the North American referees are banned, which kind of sounds like WAF wants to go that way anyway. From what I heard at the Worlds, the North American referees were going to be slowly phased out, which means all your best refs at WAF aren't going to be doing much anyway, and they're going to have time on their hands. So, in a sense, who cares? It's you're just limiting what people can do, and I think that guys like Leonard and Dave Hicks, they'll go wherever they want to go. Keith Michelle, all fantastic. All the Canadian guys are pretty high level. And if you don't want them at WAF, there's opportunities out there. And there's no shortage of referees around the world to do that. You want to start banning guys, that's fine. I've seen more crappy calls out of some of the European WAF refs lately than I have out of the guys that do WAL, which aren't even certified at a world level. So it's kind of a non-issue to me. Some people are pretty upset about it. Maybe the referees are upset about it, but I personally am not. I think that there's better opportunities for the better refs outside of the World Arm Wrestling Federation. Now, that being said, where it will have an effect is at national championships. If WAF starts to try to govern who you can use for referees, if they're banned from WAF or they banned from the national body, that's where you're going to run into some tough stuff there. Particularly in Canada, we have a ton of referees that are all WAF certified. If something comes down that they can't travel around and referee in non-WAF events, then we'll run into some issues. So I guess time will tell. Now, I was asking a few friends, what should I do for content this week? And they reminded me, they said, you know, if you need content, they said, every time we're at practice, you've got a story that, you know, I've been told I should write a book. Now, this one isn't going to be that exciting, but I thought I'd relate it back to training in arm wrestling and chiropractic. Now, take this for, I say this every time, take this for what it's worth. It's my personal experience. So this is what I'm explaining to you. All the way back in the early 2000s, I went to the National Arm Wrestling Championships in Kelowna, BC, and I got into a strap match with Len Hout. Now, those of you know Len, the guy's a legend in the sport, former world champion, still around, still doing it, but we ended up in a strap match, and the strap was pulling right here on my hand, and down pressure so much that it injured my wrist, and what I learned later was actually a slight dislocation. So I went through about a year of therapy and sports clinic stuff, and conventional doctors. I went for the MRI, I went for x-rays, I went through physiotherapy and all that stuff, and they said, there's nothing wrong with your wrist. And they said, well, I said, it hurts. They said, well, can you pour a 4-liter jug of milk? And I said, yeah. I said, well, then you're good. I said, but I'm a professional arm wrestler. Like, I don't want to stop arm wrestling when you're supposed to be a sports clinic. And I went through a whole year of all this crap. And I had been going to a chiropractor, but I had never ever gone to one that would adjust anything but my neck and back. So I went to Royal Chiropractic here in my hometown, and it was my very first visit, and the doctor there, Dr. Sarlis, took my wrist and he dug around a little bit in it, and he adjusted my wrist. He took it and snap. He goes, this is gonna hurt, and it hurt. And he said there was a bone out of place. And he said there was, because of that slight deviation, he said, unless there's a deviation of 25% or more, conventional medicine will not recognize it as being dislocated. He felt it, knew it was there. So in a year that I went through all this stuff, I could have went to him one time, but it was a good learning experience. Relief was instant. Range of motion came back almost instantly to the point where it could, because after a year, I still have limited range of motion. This wrist goes to here, this wrist goes to here. You see the difference? That's as much as my left wrist bends. So for those of you that think that I might be able to hook. It's not the greatest because I end up in a leverage disadvantage. I can still do it, as some of you know, but it's not the best. And yeah, so from that moment on, I went to him, still go to him, adjust my wrists, adjust my elbows, adjust my shoulders, takes care of me, keeps me training, and that is my story for today. World Arm Wrestling League. The season is coming up. Not much has been announced. Michael talked a little bit about it on our interview. He thinks he knows what he's up against right away. Not opponent, but what style of match. I'm waiting for that call from World Arm Wrestling League because I know that as of right now, there are a lot of guys in that league that aren't the level that should be in that league. Now you can say Ryan Espy is a left arm, primarily a left arm wrestler. And while I have enjoyed success, more so in my left hand, let me remind you that I am undefeated against a lot of the guys that are in that championship rounds of that right-handed WAL bracket. Now that includes guys like Devin. I recently, in WAL, with the right arm, defeated guys like Mike Aiello. I'm undefeated against Ian Carnegie. I have had epic matches with Jerry Cataret. And there are a ton of guys in there that are lower level super heavyweights that we have just never crossed paths. So if you're going to have a right-handed tournament and exclude people based on them primarily being left-handed arm wrestlers, maybe you need to do your homework a little bit better. I'm looking for matches right now. I'm ready on 2 weeks' notice. I'm not an enhanced athlete. I can be ready when I get the call. All I ask is for a couple of weeks to do a peak for an event. Now the same goes for PAL, the same goes for World Elite Arm Wrestling, as goes for the WAL. If you can make it make sense for me, I will come and I will compete. And I can do it on short notice. There you have it. See you guys next week.